The attacks always happen the same way. Can't say the Krauts ain't reliable. First thing in the morning, you wake up with the air raid sirens going off in the city. If you still pray, you pray that the bombs don't hit your section. Then the artillery starts. Arty ain't that bad. We dug in pretty well among the ruins. This time was different. When the arty stopped, they had tanks coming across the river. We heard of them, but never seen them. Makes you feel like you just don't matter. Rajiv took a hit next to me, and that was it for him. Even the Sarge said, "Boy, what are we fighting for even?" And he's right. This ain't my country, and war, well, it sucks. Ain't nothing like I imagined. The bloke who replaced our quartermaster told me over a pint that England ain't so bad. If you don't bother the Krauts, they don't bother you. Just don't cause no trouble. Mum ain't doing well. She's fallen ill. Still keeps going on about how syndicalism will rise from the ashes or some bollocks. I've stashed away enough coin to bribe us on a ship back to England, and Sarge helped organize it. We're officially deserters now, but no one cares no more here. We'll go back. Maybe Mum can stay with Aunt Bridget in the country for a while, and I'll go to Dover with the Sarge and see if we can find anyone who we know who survived. Who knows? Maybe Gabe made it out, and we can share stories over a pint. Reckon there should be a pub left standing somewhere. There's an argument being made that Mexico is both an opportunity and an obligation. Now, this is not quite the case, because we have intentionally mostly stayed off the American continent, given that the German population at home is starting to very vocally oppose the further continuation of the war. Mexico has been an ardent syndicalist country, so a very left-wing socialist from the beginning of this whole exercise. And as such, any kind of troop movement towards Mexico means we would need to be both dealing with local garrisons as well as with any kind of sabotage against the troops, and it would become yet another quagmire that would stretch all the way across Central America and North America. So at this point, we will be leaving Central America alone. There are potentially a diplomatic solution coming up that we are going to what is going to happen to these countries that are currently under German occupation. That goes for India as well. Otherwise, we may at some point, once von Schleicher's government is very much fed up with the Foreign Office, then the military might take over this part of the civilian administration as well and reorganize things as it sees fit. Well, so let us continue the war in Asia. And right now, if we are looking only the Dominion of Canada and potentially the Empire of Japan are still standing against us, as well as obviously the Union of Socialist American States. But again, we will try to avoid any further involvement on yet another continent to stretch out the war to the point that discontent in Germany becomes strong enough that it would weaken the government to the point of other countries potentially getting funny ideas that they might be strong enough to once again challenge Germany. So let's tidy some things up here, and then we will continue the invasion of Japan, which I think is about to conclude at this point. The 1st Panzer is on the way to cut off the remaining Japanese troops north of Niigata. And we will then, from there, once we have defeated the remains of the Japanese army on the home islands, we will move north towards Sapporo against whatever minor resistance is still present, and finish this war with the Empire of Japan. And we will see what happens in the Americas. Right, while we are waiting for the Mitteleuropa doctrine to be passed and start the enlargement of the Mitteleuropa system to get the rest of the countries into closer economic cooperation, we'll be doing some naval improvements as we are starting to wind down the war operations. And I think, any of these is going to be good. So we'll go through these. We have research that can be done. Let's see what's on the table. We can get improved Landwasserschlepper, so the landing craft. That might be quite interesting. These are still ahead of time, and we don't need those. We've got that's still a little bit ahead of time, so we're caught up on tanks. We can get the Mighty 88, 8,8 cm Flugabwehrkanone Modell 41, the 8.8 cm anti-aircraft cannon model 1941. So let's get that researched, and that means we can upgrade that production. We have obviously a few free civilian factories. That is due to the fact that we're still on partial mobilization, but I think we are, as we are winding down the war, probably going to go down to either early or towards civilian economy, and to pacify the people at home somewhat more. So let's not worry about that too much. We do potentially have doctrines that we can get. But I think land doctrines still, we need 85, so we're still a bit far away from that. In that regard, nothing to do here either. So let's, I think, get back to operations on the ground and wait for the Foreign Office to come around. With suggestions on the future of the occupied territories. And I think we are going to have to make sure that the Japanese do not move out of Niigata. So we will be sending the 5th Panzer in as well, just to make sure that the 1st Panzer is going to be... They are sending troops from the north in a desperate attempt to hold the northern flank here. But I think we are pushing them out without too much trouble. And the 1st Panzer is moving in to close the trap and to complete the encirclement of Japanese troops north of Niigata, and that will cut off the complete remains of the Japanese army. And that, I believe, means apparently that despite the fighting still going on, overall the politicians have decided that the Second Weltkrieg has ended with a complete and total victory in Europe. The Kaiser probably will have a speech ready. After a long and grueling conflict, our armies returned victorious, having forced all of our enemies in Europe to kneel. There may be some resistance among the strugglers and the minor powers who foolishly choose to join forces with the Russians or the Syndicalists, as well as at sea, but they are no longer a threat to our supremacy. In the First Weltkrieg, we imposed harsh terms upon the Russians and the French in order to make sure that they never rise to challenge us again. It appears that they were not enough. We shall not repeat our mistake a second time. A military occupation and a compliant puppet regime will dismantle the military industry of those states and exploit them to the point of harmlessness. Our hegemony shall never be challenged again. A Pax Germanica descends upon Europe. A peace enforced for decades by German arms, peace and prosperity brought thanks to our benevolent leadership with the rest of Europe will learn to respect in time, whether they want it or not. Of course, our struggle does not end here. We have to extinguish syndicalism worldwide, enforce our hegemony throughout the continents, and challenge the remaining superpowers, whether with a pen or with a sword. And with that, I believe the Pax Germanica, has completed, and that interestingly will allow us to actually do a couple of focuses underneath. So let's have a quick look and see what these are all about. Okay, it appears we have 3 major branches here in the Pax Germanica tree. We've got the Deutsches Weltreich, the German global empire, which leads into work in progress things, which are things that are not yet implemented. So this version of Kaiserreich does not have a Cold War succession sort of thing. But there are a couple of other things that we can do here in order to restore certain things, which I think we mostly have already done. So like seizing the legation cities, restoring Middle Africa, and so on. We've got the Victory Arc and the Schleicher Constitution, which is going to be the tree that we're going down. And we do have the Woe to the Vanquished, which I think is the one I'm going to go first, because that deals with the post-war situation in the occupied territories, which is something that has been causing grief for quite a while. So this is something we're going to be doing first. We still technically have the Japanese-German War and the American-German War going on, but we will see how that will go. So for now, we'll switch over to Woe to the Vanquished, and we have some fate decisions to do as well. All right, let us begin with the fate of Norway. Now, ideally, Norway should be part of the Swedish Empire, and technically Sweden should be in control of more territory here as well. We will see how this goes, but we've got a fair amount of territories to deal with. So let's begin with the fate of Norway. And again, we cannot actually do this, but we can only turn it into return the Norwegian monarchy temporarily. I think there will be a quick end to foreign policy meddling by the civil administration by the Reichskanzler, installing his own people and taking care to reorganize the world as he sees it fit. But so for now, we'll restore the we restored the Norwegian monarchy. So that is going to deal with that. All right, Mexico. Like I said, Mexico we will stay out of. So I think we can do two things. We can liberate Mexico and into an independent country, and or we can split Yucatan off Mexico, and then the rest is becoming Mexico, or we could maintain the occupation. I think splitting them up is always a good thing, because it leads to a less unified approach, and maybe we can sow some discord among the whole syndicalist things here. So we shall split that off. We'll see what that looks like. Yucatan's split off. Mexico is Mexico, and Colombia is the next one, and that's going to be a similar. Yes, we shall liberate Colombia, and that as such they will become an independent state. And then we are looking at India, and India is going to again a state as it is. I would say too large to cause trouble, but India has an interesting religious cultural mix that will cause a fair amount of internal tension. So I think maintaining an Indian state that is mostly focused inwards afterwards is not a bad idea. So we shall release a united Indian state, and that will lead to future trouble inside that they will need to deal with. And if there is any kind of unrest, then this is an Ottoman problem. And that brings us to the West Indies Federation, which I think we can as well liberate the West Indies Union. And with that, the world is once more as it was, albeit with somewhat different states, and with Mexico and Colombia, as well as the West Indies, formerly part of the Reichspakt. But practically, again, I don't see us. How's their military situation? They have absolutely no military currently. So this is not something that we will be. I don't think there are any American troops here on the borders either. So yes, we could potentially launch another invasion, but there is going to be more trouble to be dealt with, and we are trying to wrap up the war. So let us focus back on Japan, where we have Some troops coming in from the north, so the Japanese apparently still have some troops available to them. Can we pull the... Are we still within range of the aircraft? We can probably pull them a little closer. We have the Tokyo Air Base now under our control, so let's get the furthest wings a little closer, and we can probably bring these wings over here as well. Okay. Now let's clear out the Japanese situation, and we will see if there is a potential of the situation in the Americas becoming somewhat stable, such that we can reduce we can get out of this war and focus on the reconstruction and political cleanup that is going to be required inside Europe to a large degree. A lot of Japanese troops, and never mind, Japan has surrendered, and with that, the Empire of Japan has capitulated. Great news. With that, also Siam and the Kingdom of Siam and the Philippines have surrendered. German East Asia has participated, obviously. So for now, we shall be controlling Japan mostly. We will see what that looks like. Korea ideally would be handed over to the Republic of Korea. There is no real reason to create a disunited Korea. This is going to cause trouble later on. So let's make sure that we control the Japanese territories. We've got the Ryukyu Islands still. And we've got the outlying islands, obviously. So let's begin with Taiwan and Guam, Iwo Jima, and that just leaves one island. Okay, let's submit these demands and see what is being challenged. No one challenges anything. German East Asia should be taking territory in Siam, ideally. We can take control of the Philippines for now. So let's submit those demands as well. And we still have a single island from Japan that we can take. We can take over the remains of the Japanese Navy. Yeah, why not? We'll incorporate them into an East Asian fleet. So let's take these, and then we'll see if German East Asia is going to take more territory inside Siam. Ideally, they would be the ones to control this. But if they don't, then I will sort that out afterwards. Yeah, it looks like they don't. So we shall take the Kingdom of Siam then as well. We forfeit the territory that is claimed by German East Asia, and then we can confirm and exit. All right. So let's see if that raises any further troubles coming out of the diplomatic corps. But for now, with that, the Second Weltkrieg has ended officially, and we shall see, despite the fact that the Canadians and the Americans are technically still at war with us. But we will see if anything can be done about this, because again, the support for the war is not great at home. So, with that, the deadliest conflict in human history comes to a close in Europe. We have already talked about this. At the center of all this is Kurt von Schleicher and his Wehrstaat. Oh yes, the future of the German Empire. That is definitely interesting. The system of near absolute centralization that his government has pursued. With the war's end, Schleicher has promised a return to normalcy, but few believe that it will bear much resemblance to the democracy that came before. No, it will not. Given how deeply the Wehrstaat affected German society. Progressives outside of Germany have also looked with concern, as anti-leftist rhetoric has only gotten stronger. Anything else? No. One who fights a war must be prepared to win it. There is no better example. Yes, so no, we are definitely not returning to the old system, but we are going to remain in a German uniparty system. Technically, the Deutschnationale Einheitsfront, the German National Unity Front, has about close to 60% popularity, but this is still potentially going to change as we crack down on what kind of remnants are there of opposing political forces. And we are nominally still with Wilhelm III at the head of the empire, but it is not the same empire. It is not a disunited empire mired in local squabbles, but it is a global superpower with the Reichspakt under complete control of pretty much most of Asia and Europe, with certain exceptions. And with that, new powers come into being. The Americas still have to sort themselves out. Australia remains as part of the Entente, but with Canada in the lead and mired in a fighting war against America, things are probably too busy for the Australians to do anything else. And South America is doing their own thing as well. So for now, we'll have a very quick look of, yes, we have a few more fate decisions. So we have the fate of Iceland, and again we are going to release an independent Iceland here, and I will deal with that in a minute because yes, von Schleicher will complete his control of the empire by dealing with the foreign office and removing the career diplomats and installing his own people in return. The fate of Putumayo, and I have to admit I don't even know where that is. Let's have a quick look. Putumayo. That is in South America, apparently. Okay, so that is. See what we can do there. We can hand it over to Colombia or Peru, Bolivia. Let's see what these people are. Let's see what these people are. Both of them have. Colombia has a core state on this, so I think Colombia is the better choice here. So give it to Colombia. Done. Fate of Japan, yes. We shall release a transitional government of Japan. And that clears that up. And then we have the fate of the Philippines. We will... German East Asia could take over the Philippines. And given that we potentially can't trust the Japanese in the north or the Chinese, maintaining a strong German East Asia would be a benefit. That said, German East Asia has shown its incompetence, so I am more inclined to liberating a Filipino government and not burden the German East Asian government any more than it already is. Especially that we have Siam, which I think is going to be not something we can hand over to German East Asia. We can create either, and honestly, this is again transitional. We will be handing this territory over to German East Asia, and they will be in control and have a land bridge towards Singapore and have that all sorted. All right. The Foreign Office, formerly under a part of the civilian administration, has been removed, and people loyal to von Schleicher have taken over, and have reorganized the delineation of occupied territories. We have Sweden, which is now in control of Norway as well as Iceland, and with that forms a major arm of our northern flank and expansion. France, currently still under military governance of Fedor von Bock, is occupying Spain as well as part of Algeria, where syndicalists from Europe have been moved. Portugal is under German control to ensure that we have direct access to the Atlantic, and no changes on the British Isles. On the continent, Bulgaria, given their contribution to the war in Africa, has been given control over Greece, and that hopefully secures them against any kind of potential future Balkans wars, and gives them also provides a certain bulwark against the Ottoman Empire, which is rather powerful in case they get any kind of future ideas. The Georgia and Azerbaijan have taken over the short-lived Mountain Republic in the north, and as such, the Caucasus is under control there as well. In Asia, German East Asia has taken over Siam and is now in control of a continuous region in the area. It will work as a bulwark against a potential trouble with China in the future. The Philippines remain independent. Taiwan is under German control directly to give us ports to secure the South China Sea. Korea has been unified as the Republic of Korea, and Japan is and remains nominally independent but under German military control. In Africa, Middle Africa has been given control of the West African states, and with that, a firm German ally is in direct control of the South Atlantic. They have also taken over control of Madagascar, and Ethiopia has occupied Somalia, and hopefully that conflict is now over as well. And with that, we can move towards building a peacetime army. We have a lot of troops that are in foreign countries and that are needed to return home. We still have to complete the naval invasions, however. So we've got a couple of naval invasions pending. Let's get them all underway. So that would be the invasion from Shanghai into Tianjin, and we've got the invasion of Hong Kong as well. That should close off the delegation cities. And we have some troops from Barcelona which are moving into Palma, and that should end the troubles we are having in any potential trouble with the Spanish government in exile. So let's get these troops underway as well. There is a fair amount of enemy divisions on the ground. So let's see if we can deal with these without too much trouble. And although they are relatively well entrenched there, we might have to bring a stronger force into the area. And we are coming under attack from Spanish submarines. So where do we have the that's the Japanese task force. The Schlachtgeschwader is on the way. Yeah, they are on their way to intercept. So that should hopefully, and I think the escort groups should be covering this area as well. They should definitely be. So that should be dealt with as well, and we'll see if we can manage to land there. I think mostly, yeah, we've just got a couple of fighter wings actually on the continent. So return of the Luftwaffe. We've got some close air support wings that we can bring. So although I think these are all on carriers. Yes. All right, so much reorganizing is to be done. We can bring one of the Jagdgeschwaders probably over just to have aerial superiority over the region. But other than that, we will see if the Marines can manage to fight their way through this. Otherwise, we will be bringing additional Marine troops home, and we will be dealing with that. And I think the destroyers are inbound, chasing away enemy submarines, and we do not need any more troops from the Trans-Amur Republic. So some smaller hotspots still to deal with. We'll see how the invasion of Palma is ending up. The naval troops, and again, the continuous occupation requires more resources, which is going to further reduce our war support. We are working towards solving that. In a where was the tree? Down here. We are working towards solving that. I think it's the restoration of civilian administration that we need to get towards. So that's the European situation that we need to sort out. Let's have a quick look if the landings in Hong Kong are running without too much trouble, and in the north as well. I think troops are still underway there. Hong Kong is back under control. Well done. So the troops have successfully landed, and that just leaves the enemy capital. And with that, the occupation of Tianjin without any further bloodshed. The legation cities have capitulated. Great news indeed. So they shall be under direct German military occupation at this point, defending our interests in Asia. Right. We do have a fair few naval battles still ongoing here, where we are sinking enemy convoys, especially American convoys. So Battle of the Atlantic still going on, still raging, while the Americans are fighting it out with Canada. There seems to not have been a massive change for the last couple of weeks on the American continent. They fight that war, but Germany as such needs to move towards a situation of peace. The Hochseeflotte, the High Seas Fleet, after conquering the Seven Seas, is returning home. The SMS Elsass still being the flagship of our fleet, and will be sailing in a triumphant return to the North Sea and to their home ports after a long absence. The duty in the Pacific will be taken over by a fleet that is to be newly created, where we have a fair number of Japanese ships, most of them submarines. So these submarines will be modernized. All ships will be modernized and pressed into Pacific service to secure the Pacific regions. And then the rest of the ships will be coordinated, and our political direction will be to move back to a civilian economy. And we will also be returning to a volunteer-only army. There is no longer need for an active conscription. The troops can return home, and we will demobilize as we go. In terms of a post-war navy, we have the Atlantic and the Pacific theaters, obviously. The Atlantic theater has still the priority, given that the ongoing hostilities are still there. But we do have the first and third Schlachtgeschwader, both under Admiral Raeder, returning to home waters. And we've got the Atlantic Flotte under Admiral Bastian with the second Schlachtgeschwader, as well as with a newly formed task force, which is currently just reinforcing the newly constructed carriers that are still practicing. And we have the well-known submarine and escort groups. In the Pacific theater, the remains of the Japanese fleet have been formed into the fourth Schlachtgeschwader, which will be taken over by Admiral Karls, who has heaped glory upon himself and his group of cruisers. He is bringing the two cruiser groups out of the Indian Ocean to join with the Ki, Mutsu, as well as the three cruisers. And we are going to form the core of the Pacific Fleet out of these ships, potentially eventually reinforced with some of Admiral Bastian's task forces when they are becoming available. We might be able to send the French ships over as well at some point. Right now, everything that is not fighting needs to be repaired. And that is the naval situation. When it comes to the air situation, obviously Honolulu is now, and with that Hawaii is now at the front lines, and we will be directing a fair amount of assets into the region to control the Eastern Pacific. We're already building up the airport, the airbase there, and we have a radar station on site. And it also makes sense to create an airbase in northern Siberia. So let's see what that would look like. Can we? We cannot create an airbase in northern Siberia because it's a demilitarized zone. All right, that would be why. Okay, so in that case, probably the north will have to be handled from Japan, and from the excessive air infrastructure that we have there. Australasia is potentially an item, so we will see if we need an airbase in the... we do have a relatively strong airbase already in Northern New Guinea. We can build up a second one in the south, and it also makes sense to build up the local infrastructure to ensure that everything there is in good shape. We can improve the port facilities potentially, just to ensure that we have a staging point from here into Australia if necessary. And that will be the core of the Eastern Air Group. In the west, Iceland is obviously an interesting position, and who is currently under Portugal is currently owning the Azores. So that means we will probably need a... it will make sense to start expanding our territory there, and from there on control the North Atlantic. We should be in control of St. Helena. So let's have a quick look, if we can even click on it. That is, St. Helena is currently under direct control of the Empire. So creating an airbase. Okay, let's build up the infrastructure there locally on the island, and then we'll create an airbase and a radar station on St. Helena. That will allow for, and we also need to upgrade the port facilities since we are here. So let's get that underway as well. So that gives the civilian economy something to do. And yes, invasions in the north to control the Atlantic, while we are preparing for an eventual conflict in the future. For now, however, there will be peace, which means that the armies are going to return mostly to Germany and to occupied Portugal, which reminds me, we probably also need to improve the air bases. Now we have a relatively good air base in Lisbon, but we do need to improve the radar coverage in the area, just to ensure that that we are covering the approaches from any kind of enemy infraction. Lastly, for the future of the army, we are still building ships. We will probably once all of these ships have completed, begin a rather intensive modernization of the navy, and we will be in terms of land-based weapon systems. I think some restructuring potentially is in order out of the military economy into a more civilian economy, but we have armies to modernize. We will definitely be shrinking the army, and we are very short on chromium, so we can trade a bit more with Germany East Asia for that, and we can probably shrink. No, that's just overhead. Okay, so what the army is going to, which is currently relatively infantry heavy, is going to shrink. So most of the infantry will become mechanized infantry eventually, and we might get a few additional armored divisions, but the rest is going to mostly shrink. So it's all about modernization. And we might build new long-range aircraft. Let's have a quick look what the research situation is in terms of aircraft. Yeah, I think next up we will be looking into more advanced large aircraft, potentially even jet powered, that might have the range from the Atlantic bases to reach the American continent. And a full-on modernization of these mechanized forces is going to be the future focus of the army. Lastly, to end the episode, which hasn't been an awful lot on fighting, but has mostly been the reorganization of the world under the Reichspakt, I am still planning to at least go through I'm still planning to at least go through some of the national focuses here, and we will see if we can manage to get a peace. I think some people mentioned that the Americans would eventually sue for peace, so we'll see if that event comes up. Otherwise, it'll remain a Cold War, and we will observe how the fight between the Union of Socialist American States and the Entente ends up. War support, as usual, is dwindling, and I would love to end the war, but if Canada goes out, that will, or if the Americans go out, that'll end one of the two, and then we will see if there's a possibility for an uneasy peace for a future. So it's going to be slightly different, more of the political side of things going forward, and I'm curious, I've heard that Kaiserreich has events up till 1950s, so we'll see. We will continue in a slightly more political situation, and it's going to turn more into a sort of Cold War, post-Weltkrieg scenario, where a massive Reichspakt has to deal with potentially local unrests, maybe opponents who are still thinking that they can challenge the empire, and general higher economic integrations. I'm still planning to invite more countries into the Middle Europa system, and integrate more in that way. And we'll also have to see what the future of the Reichskanzler himself is now that the Weltkrieg is over. Anyway, so a few more sort of epilogue episodes still coming before we are going to conclude this series and the campaign, and then we'll be moving on to something else. That's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.